Hello everyone, welcome to Self-Knowledge. Today we have the lecture number 10 of the phase A of the Self-Knowledge course. And in this interesting lecture, we are going to be talking about the 7 bodies. This topic will help us understand that just as we saw in lecture 5 and 6, where we saw that this universe is multidimensional, that there is not only this third dimension, but a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and in the last lecture, we saw the infra dimensions, which are the second and the first. Well, that let us know that this universe is multidimensional, but what we need to understand is that we are also multidimensional beings. So we must understand that we have not only this physical body, which belong to this third dimension, but 7 bodies that allow us to have presence in the different dimensions of nature. But due to our current condition, how asleep our consciousness is, we are not aware of this. And these bodies that we have are in a lunar condition. And some of them, we just have like a principle or an embryo that we must develop so that we begin to have permanent presence and permanent awareness of all these dimensions of nature, and so that we begin to have a constant presence in all these dimensions. So in lecture 5 and 6, we also saw different techniques that we teach in this course that let us verify the existence of these dimensions and begin to do some kind of research in these dimensions. But we also talk about the need to start developing those vehicles or bodies that will allow us to move in these dimensions but at will and to have a permanent presence there. So that means that if we have the body fully developed, then we can be able to go to that dimension anywhere we want. And we will do this work of regeneration of these bodies, creation and development of the bodies of which we only have a principle through a sex. Since just as this physical body was created through sex, it is through sex that all bodies are created. So in today's topic, we will be explained in detail the practice of suprasex to learn how to start using our sexual creative energy wisely to awaken our consciousness in each one of these dimensions. Here you can see those 7 bodies. And of this, we have already created, fully created, the physical and the vital bodies. It could be said that they are already like fully developed in an adult. But the reality is that they are currently in a degenerated state, like subject to many diseases, many ailments, since we constantly live misusing our energy. For that reason, we need to do a work to regenerate these 2 bodies, the physical and the vital one, and move them from that lunar state in which they currently find themselves to a solar state. Of the astral, mental, and causal bodies, well, actually, in most human beings, we only have like an embryo of these bodies that allow us some basic functions, such as feeling, for example, that the embryo of astral body that we have allow us to feel, the embryo of mental body that we have allow us to think, and the embryo of causal body that we have allow us to have some will, because the causal body is the body of the will. And in addition to these functions, they allow us, if we practice, they allow us to make certain unfoldings in these dimensions, and short unfoldings. But we need to develop these bodies. We need to actually fully create these bodies, and so we can access to all their functions and their capabilities. And of these bodies, the buddhic and the atmic bodies, which are like the highest ones, are completely created, and they are currently in a solar state. Since when we fall through the different dimensions of nature, in this physical manifestation, these bodies didn't fall. They maintained their solar nature, and they actually constitute that conscious part in us, of which we are currently disconnected, but from which we sometimes receive certain guidance and internal teachings, and to which we will fully unite again once we have created these first bodies that constitute our human soul, becoming true men. And by joining these higher bodies, we will become supermen. Enlightenment masters, conscious beings, awake in all dimensions of nature. And we are going now to study each body in detail. And when I study them, we are going to see, for example, that each body vibrates with one of the 7 musical notes. And the denser the body, the lower its vibration. So it will vibrate with a lower musical note. And we will also see that each body is of a different nature, from a dense nature such as cellular, like the physical body, to bodies of light. And we are going to see that each body is governed by a number of laws that are like the limitations to which that body is subject to. For example, the physical body is subject to the law of gravity, you know that, which is one of the 48 laws to which this body is like subject to. So with this body, we cannot just like jump and fly, because we are attracted to the earth thanks to this law of gravity. However, with higher bodies, such as the astral, mental, etc., we can actually jump and float, or we can fly away, since they are subject to fewer laws. And among these laws is not that of gravity. And that you're going to see that when we study each of the bodies. And we will also see the element of nature to which each one of this body is related, and the energetic center of our physical body, where they have their seat inside us. Because we must understand that these bodies are like in our interior. So when we unfold, we actually take like a body from our interior. Or let's say we enter to this world and we move with that body. Also, we'll see the hydrogen they work with, or the level of purity of energy that each of these body requires to be created, and we will see also some of their functions. So let's start by studying the physical body. And we know that we have a physical body. The reality is that we have, yes, our physical body fully developed, and this body is in this third dimension. This body vibrates with the lower musical note, which is the note Do. And you can see that the vibration of the physical body is like the lowest and the most dense of the 7 bodies. It has a cellular nature. It means that, our body is made out of cells, and this body is governed by 48 laws, and it forms what we can call our outer world, or Earth. So, as I was saying, it is important to know that these bodies, the other bodies, are like inside us, and the physical body is actually like the external one, and the others are more and more inside us. And this physical body has a particular importance, and is that it is an energy condenser. So it has the ability to create with the use of the sexual energy and create not only another physical body, as in the case of the physical children, but with this physical body is with which we can make the creation of our internal bodies by learning to make a wise use of our energy and of the energy condensing capacity that this body has. And this body is related to our sexual center, and it manages the sexual creative energy. This body works with hydrogen 48 because it is related to the 48 laws, and it is found, as I was saying, in the third dimension. It is related to the element, to the earth element, and therefore with the gnomes and the pygmies, which are the elementals of the earth. And a person who regenerates his physical body actually receives the power to rule the gnomes and the pygmies, which are the elementals of the earth. And this body is actually in a lunar condition due to fornication. And we must, or the first work that we must do with our sexual energy is to regenerate this physical body. We don't need to create it because we already have it. And well, let's see the second body, which is the etheric or vital body. And this one vibrates with the musical note re. And this one belongs to the fourth dimension. And this body is the energy that gives vitality to the physical body. It is what gives, the energy to the physical body for its different functions. This body is what is commonly known as the aura because it is like a glowing body. And this body is governed by the same 48 laws of the physical body, since it is like the upper part of our physical body. And the duration of the physical body depends on the state of this vital body, since if we constantly use up our energy and our energy resources, constantly fornicating our sexual, emotional, mental, and motor energy, we weaken faster, and the life of the physical body obviously is shortened. And this vital body is etheric in nature, and it is made up of 4 ethers. And these ethers are the chemical, the light, the reflector, and the life ethers. These ethers actually regulate our different organic functions, as this vital body that has its seat in the instinctive center is in charge of the of the health, not wealth, of the physical body. For example, the chemical ether regulates the assimilation of substances in the body, the functions of our internal organs and of each one of our glands. And the light ether is what regulates the the functioning of our external and internal sensory perceptions, like the senses, because we have five external senses, but we actually have 7 internal senses, and all of them are regulated by the light ether. The reflector ether is what regulates our processes of imagination, of concentration, and will. And the life ether regulates the reproduction capacity of the physical body. And any irregularity in these ethers due to the wear and tear of this body, or due to karma, since this body is actually related to the instinctive center, that is the one that manages our karma, any irregularity will result in any of the many diseases that we usually have. Since this, as I was saying, this vital body is what oversees the health of the physical body. This body manages our waters, and internally our waters represent our energy. So, as I explained other lectures. If you want to know the state of your energy, you can see the state of the water in the astral world. And at first, you will see your waters are polluted and smelly, and that represents the state in which your energy is due to the the misuse that the psychological defects are making of your energy and due to the fornication. But as you work on the purification of your energy through the psychological death and through the sexual transmutation, you will be able to verify the internal transformation of these waters. Actually, whoever regenerates this body manages to have dominion over the water element and therefore over the Indians and Mirids that are the elementals of the water. Those that you hear that historically had power over water, as for example, you heard of Moses who divided the sea, or of a Jesus who walked on the water. They actually did so because they had regenerated their vital body. So they have the dominion over the water element, because when you get to dominate your inner element, then that gives you the power to dominate the external element. And the physical seat of this body is, I said that, is instinctive center, which is at the level of the sacrum in the spine. And this body produces the vital energy, which is the tetra sustainer of all energies. It means that it gives energy to our different centers and deposits the energy on the sexual center to create. That is the most important work of this vital body. It works also with hydrogen 48, and this body is currently in a lunar condition due to fornication, since when we fornicate, that is when we spill our sexual energy and we reach orgasm and ejaculation, we waste our available energy resources, and hence the importance of stopping spilling our sexual energy and starting to purify it in order to regenerate this body, because we do have it created, but we need to regenerate it. And well, let's now see the third body, which is the astral body. And of this body, we only have like a principle of it. And this body vibrates with the musical note Mi. It has a molecular nature, and for that reason, in the astral, we can go like through walls, or we can stretch any part of the body, and it stretches and stretches and then returns to its original state. It is because it is molecular. And this body is subject to 24 laws, which are half the laws of the physical body, and uses hydrogen 24. This astral body is in the lower fifth dimension or emotion world, and it works with emotional energy. For that reason, we need to start also making a wise use of our emotional energy, because the most control that we have over our emotions, the most capacity we will have to achieve a conscious astral unfolding. And well, in us, this principle of the astral body allows us to have the ability to feel and to create and develop this body fully. We need to gain control over our emotions. First, regenerate the physical body, to generate the vital body, and then we go to create the astral body. You know that in our emotions, there is like the fire, that internal fire, or that encouragement that we need for our inner work. But as our emotional energy is commonly managed and misused by our psychological defects, for example, anxiety, worry, sadness, depression, sentimentality, or emotions of overwhelmed, etc. And because of that, we are all the time in that emotional like imbalance. So we need to work on that with the psychological depth. And we must learn to have the right feeling to be able to rescue that spirit, that fire, and use it in pursuit of consciousness and get to create this astral body that, will allow us to have a constant and conscious presence in the astral world. This means that once we have our astral body fully created, we will be able to unfold to the astral world at will every time we go to sleep. And well, this body manages our inner fire and is related to the fire element and to the fire salamanders, which are the elementals of the fire. And whoever regenerates this body will have control over the fire element. And this body has as it sits within us the emotional center, which is at the level of the solar plexus, that is at the level of like the navel. And it is currently in a lunar condition. It is actually a few human beings in this planet possess a fully created astral body, and we need to do the work to create this body. And well, let's see the next body, which is the mental body. We also only have a mental body principle, which allows us to have the ability to think. And this body vibrates with the musical note fa. And it is atomic in nature, so it means that it is made from atoms, and it is like more subtle or lighter than the astral body. It is only subject to 12 laws, half the laws of the astral body, and that is why when making a mental unfolding, the freedom and the ease of movement is actually greater. And this body works with hydrogen 12, which means that the degree of purity of the energy required to create that body is higher. And this body is actually in the upper fifth dimension in the mental world and allow us to move in the mental world, and it works with mental energy. And to create this body, we need to develop master, our mind and overcome the constant waste of mental energy due to that like unstoppable train of thoughts, and we must learn to live in that constant inner silence that is the right thinking, so that the wisdom of our consciousness can manifest in us. And creating this body will allow us to have a presence in the mental world and to have control over the air element and over the sylphs and sylphids of the air, which are the elementals of the earth. And this body in us has its seats in our intellectual center at the level of the heart, but on the spine. And it is currently in a lunar condition. Also, only a few people have it fully created, and we must create this body. Well, the next body is the causal body, or the body of will. And of this, we also have a principle or an embryo of the will body, and it vibrates with the musical note sol. And we have been seeing how the vibration of this body varies from a low note such as do to sol, which is like a note with a high vibration. And well, this body is subject to only 6 laws. So the lightness and the freedom that is experienced with this body in the sixth dimension, because it belongs to the lower sixth dimension, is actually like amazing for us, since the level of restrictions of materiality and pain at that level is actually like minimal. And there we can already um, like get to imagine that when we manage to go to that world, which is the causal world, we can already perceive what is true happiness, since this dimension is actually what we know as the heavens. Remember that heavens are from the sixth dimension and up, and those are places of authentic happiness. And this body is, let me see, in the world of causes, or the causal world. This body is electronic in nature. It means that it is composed only of electrons that are the negative charge of the atom. So to create this body, we must develop the will, which is the ability to say no. That is the ability to deny our desires, to start doing the will of the Father, which is the will of our consciousness, and to have the will to deny ourselves to our negative thoughts, to our negative emotions, to our negative sexual impulses, and the will to deny ourselves to all our lower nature, in order to create this causal body, or body of the will, and thereby develop what is our human soul, and there become true men. That means that when we get to regenerate our physical, our vital bodies, and to create our astral, mental, and causal body, we will already possess a human soul. So we will become true men. And well, this body manages the ether, which is the ability to dominate nature through the verb. And by developing this solar will, you already acquire a domain over all your inner nature, by having the ability to deny all the manifestations of the ego, and you will be able to dominate your air, which is your mind, your fire, which is your emotions, your waters, which is your energy, and your earth, which is your sexual center. So when you achieve like domination over your inner nature, obviously you will acquire dominion over all external nature. Actually, through the ether, which is the capacity to domain the nature through the verb, you can like order the fire salamanders to put out a fire, for example, or you can like stop an earthquake, since you can already dominate the earth, or you can at will make it rain, since nature already obeys you at that point. And this body has its seat at the motor center, at the height of the larynx, and this body works with motor energy. It uses hydrogen 6, so the level of purity of the energy that is required to create this body is actually quite high. So we need to make a lot of work of psychological death, sexual transmutation, that is spiritual birth, and sacrifice for humanity, to take our energy to that level of pureness, so we can create this body of the will. We currently have only a principle of this body, which is like the one that actually allows us to start denying ourselves to the desires of our psychological defects and to start eliminating them. But we need to create that body of the solar will through the supra-sexuality. Well, let's now see the two bodies that are not fallen, that are in a solar condition. The first one is the bodic body, and we actually have this body fully created. It is also known as the body of consciousness. It vibrates with the musical note La, it is subject to 6 laws, the same number of laws as the causal body. And it is magnetic in nature, it is made up of protons that are the positive charge of the atom. And this body is our divine soul. Having already created our causal body that represents our human soul, we will have the right to unite with our divine soul that we don't have to create, because this body is already raised in a solar condition. And we have the causal body at this point and the buddhic body at this point. And as both bodies are subject to the same number of laws, and being this body of a magnetic nature and the causal one of an electronic or electric nature, they are going to attract each other. And that union between the human and the divine will be known as the perfect matrimony. And that will be a very important process that we will have to live when we advance in this work of self-knowledge. And this body is in the upper 6th dimension or Buddhic world, and it manages the akasha. And that is the faculty that allow the master, since those instances we already become masters, not only to dominate nature through birth, but also to create through the birth. And this body has its material seat in the higher emotional center in the pituitary gland. And as I was saying, it is found raised in all human beings, and it is like waiting for us to do the job of creation of the first 5 bodies to merge with them. And well, the last body is the atmic body. And we have this body already created. It is our intimate. This body is in a solar condition, which means that this body didn't fall either. And this body is subject to only 3 laws. And it vibrates with the musical note T. And it has a light or photonic nature. So this is a body of light. And it is made up of just the photons, which is what is found in the, it's like the light of the atom. So we see that these bodies, if you reflect on that, you can see that these bodies are found each other more and more towards more to the interior, to the nucleus. If we actually analyze the composition of the cells, which represents our physical body, we will see that they have an energy that gives them life, that it is, the vital body, and the cells are composed of molecules, which are our emotions, which is our astral body. And that molecules are composed of many atoms, which represents our mental body. And it means that our emotions are composed of many thoughts. But if we continue to delve further, we will see that the atoms have several parts. One is the electron, which is the negative charge, which represents our causal body, which is the ability to deny ourselves. The others are the proton, that represents our buddhic body, that is our ability to judge ourselves, to eliminate our psychological defects. And finally, we find the photon, that represents this atmic body, that is the light or the wisdom that we recover from all this work. And this body is actually the wisdom within us. It is found in the 7th dimension or atomic world that has its seat here in our pineal gland. And there is the seat of our Father, of our wisdom, of our intimate. And it is the lowest that our being can reach, because our being comes from the world of the antimatter. And let's see what else. This body is found raised in all human beings. And we don't have to create it just to join that body. Once we make all the work of creation of the lower bodies, and we join the bodic body, then we join the atmic body. And well, as let me see, as I was explaining, we are going to create this body by condensing our sexual creative energy by practicing the super sex, what is the practice of the sexual transmutation. And to do this work, it is necessary, and I mean absolutely necessary, to have a stable partner of the opposite sex. And why is this so? Because just as only through the sexual union between a man and a woman can the creation of the physical body of a child occur, well, likewise, to create the existential bodies of the being that are in us, the children of light, the union of a feminine sexual energy with the masculine sexual energy, so that this creative force is activated in us, like in a positive way, is actually needed. And this is the reason why we come to this world as men and women, so we can collaborate each other to achieve this goal of creation and of self-realization. And well, our partner, he or she, must be interested in helping with collaborating in attaining the same goal, which is not to get, during the sexual practice, not to get overexcited, to never reach orgasm and ejaculation, as chastity, as you can see here, is like the foundation of this work. And we must start to value our sexual creative energy, and we need to start like reflecting and understanding its importance and the importance that it has in this work. And it is also important not to change partners. This work must be done in fidelity. In case it is that is necessary to change partners, we must consider that actually for our being, the valid reasons for changing partners are adultery, that is that the partner is unfaithful to us, or fornication, that means that after a prudent time, teaching the partner the importance of the supersexuality, our partner doesn't want to do the work, doesn't want to stop fornicating, but worst, doesn't want to help us to never reach orgasm and ejaculation during the practice. And the third valid reason, let's say, is in case that the partner dies. In that case, or in those cases, you can actually, or it must be valid, a changing partners. And if any of that occurs, it is recommended to wait at least 1 year, which is known as a magnetic pause, to start working with a different partner, because a process of like, how can I say that? I forgot the name of the process, but it needs to pass a whole year so you can like energetically separate yourself from that person. And so those are the basis, the chastity, the fidelity, and the third one is the love, because we need to love and value our partner in order to start like advancing in this work of the supersexuality. It is important that both of the persons are aware of the work they will engage in, and they must work to improve this work every day. And the secret of this practice is to get to connect the male lingam with the female yoni without ever spilling the sexual creative energy. And the steps for doing this practice are, well, first, making the belly conjuration and the magic circle that we taught in lecture number 7 of this course. So we energetically clean the environment and we close the environment so that negative entities, negative energies, larvas, etc., cannot enter that place where we are going to practice the suprasexuality to try to interfere in the practice. So those are the first step, and they are actually very important. And then you are going to make a simple asking for assistance to your internal father and to your divine mother with your own words. I mean just asking them to assist you during the practice. And the next step will be to ignite the fire with caresses and kisses to achieve a perfect lubrication in the woman and a good erection in men. And it is important to take into account that these kisses and caresses must be conscious so that so that they don't lead us to overexcitement and to lose our sexual energy. And for this, it is important to always purify the practice by working to eliminate your defects of masturbation, pornography, oral sex, etc. All those defects that actually get into the practice and take us to the overexcitement. And well, during this practice of creation, you are not going to ask for death for your defects because the force of love in this practice is actually being used to create. But later on, after the practice, you can take a moment to make to remember the practice. So you observe all the psychological defects that were manifesting there in the practice, and you get to eliminate them. And after a good erection has been achieved in man and a perfect lubrication in woman, we are going to proceed to the connection or the penetration. And once connected, we proceed to raise our sexual energy through our spine to the points between the eyes through a simple respiratory process. In the case of the woman, she will inhale the air deeply and slowly until filling her lungs and bring the air to her sexual gonads, which are the ovaries. And there she is going to retain the air while imagine that this sexual energy turns into a golden thread that goes from the ovaries towards the coccyx, which is the lowest bone there in the spine. And from there ascend all the way through the spine until it reaches the point between the eyes. And once there, she will exhale the air while mentalizing the vowel I with the sound E, elongated like E. That is the first step. The second time, inhale, imagine the air going to the sexual gonads, retain, sending the energy to the coccyx all the way through the spine until it reaches this point, and exhaling, but now the second time mentalizing the vowel A, but with the sound A, like ah. And the third time that she does this process, inhaling, retaining, taking the energy all the way until reaching this point, she will exhale with the vowel O, but with the sound O, like O. So it's E, A, O. And the man will do exactly the same as the woman. At the same time, he will inhale, he will send the air to his sexual gonads, which in the man are the testicles, and will retain the air, and will imagine that sexual energy going to the coccyx, and from there going all the way to through the spine until it reaches the point between the eyes. And once there, he will do exactly the same. He will exhale by mentalizing the vowel E at the beginning. I mean I, but with the sound E, like E. The second time, inhaling, sending the air to the sexual gonads, retaining the air and imagining the energy as the golden thread going to the coccyx and then all the way through the spine until it reaches this point. And the second time, we'll exhale with and the third time, repeat the same exact procedure. The third time, we'll exhale with the sound O. O. This process must be done slowly. Hopefully, you can last 20 seconds inhaling, 20 seconds retaining, and 20 seconds exhaling. Actually, you try to do it as slowly as possible. And once you finish the process of the E, A, O, you start once again. That way, you are transmuting your sexual energy. And if at any time the sexual potency drops a little, I mean that the man loses some of his erection or the woman loses some of her lubrication, then the partner, the couple, should make gentle movements to regain that potency, and they start or they continue to practice where they stop. I mean, if you make the E, all the process, inhalation, retention, sending the energy, exhalation, and you said the E, and you experience that you are losing some of your potency, then you make gentle movements. So you recover the potency, and you continue now with the process of the vowel A. I mean, with the sound A. Remember those three sounds: E, A, O, because those are the mantras that activate the superior creative capacity of the sexual energy. And actually, this practice can be extended for as long as the couple wants it, for as long as they have sexual potency, and as soon as the potency is completely finished, because all the energy has already been transmuted, the practice ends. That means that if you see that you already make gentle movements, kisses, caresses, you just don't regain potency, that means that all the energy have been uploaded and the practice ends. And we must remember, always remember, that the success of this practice is to withdraw from the practice without ever spilling the sexual energy. That is, without ever reaching orgasm and ejaculation. And it is important to take into account during the practice to have a very good concentration. It is important to stay focused during the practice and not allow our mind to distract us with any kind of thoughts, but to keep our concentration, our consciousness centered in the action, in what we are doing, what is the practice. And we must have a lot of imagination. You see that for the wise, imagine is to see and create. So we must endeavor to imagine the energy rising through the spine. Try to get to see it, to imagine as clear as possible. As you practice and practice, actually, you are going to develop that capacity of imagining vividly all that process. And we must have will, which is the battle to overcome the desire, to never reach orgasm and ejaculation, though expelling the sexual energy. And there are certain recommendations that we have to do when you practice this sexual transmutation, and they are that we must practice only once at night, because the glands work alternately, one per night, and it is necessary to allow a minimum of 20 hours to start working with the other gland. So we must wait a minimum of 20 hours between a practice and another practice. Each of the each one must concentrate on their own genitals, as each one works with their own energy, because we are going to raise our own energy, not the energy of our partner. And after practice, we must wait at least 2 hours before, taking a shower, because powerful electromagnetic energy is actually being moved during this practice. And if you go right after the practice ends to take a shower, take a bath, actually that is going to make you feel bad. And well, it is recommended to wait at least 2 hours. And also, it is recommended to have the room in which you are going to practice in a very good condition of cleanliness, and also not to use contraceptives during this practice, since they isolate and affect the creative power of sexual energy. And we must bear in mind that this practice is actually a natural control of fertility, because the success of the practice is to never reach orgasm and ejaculation. And to do this practice, the reproductive system and the spine must be in good condition. And remember to make during the practice only gentle movements so as not to spill the energy, so that never a sexual fall occur. And another important recommendation is never do this practice during the menstrual period. So after the menstrual period starts, you must wait 7 days to start doing the practice again. It shouldn't be practiced also while in pregnancy or while she is breastfeeding. Actually, 6 months of breastfeeding is recommended in cases that the woman is pregnant. And well, to be patient and to be constant, to be controlling and eliminating that self of the fornication that always wants to lead us to spill our sexual energy. And we achieve that by having a lot of, or practicing a lot, the psychological depth. And well, this is the lecture of today's. And we must know that the difference between the superior sexual practice that I'm explaining here and the sexual practice that is commonly known is that the practice of infrasexuality, that is the common practice, it only sought to excite the sexual organs to reach the point of expelling the sexual energy through fornication. And with the expulsion of this energy, we actually create more and more psychological defects in our interior, because it is a creative energy. And that way we become like, our consciousness become more asleep every time. While the practice of supersex is done with the purpose of using our sexual energy wisely, making it ascend to awaken our consciousness and to regenerate and create ourselves internally. And through this practice, we will do all that work of that I was explaining, and actually the love in the partner is going to increase while practicing the supersex. And you can see that an act of love is nourished by love. And with this practice, the true meaning of making love will actually be discovered. And well, that is all for today. Thank you very much to all of you who watched this video. And if you have any question, I am always available here in the page to help you with any doubt or concern that you have. And I want to invite you to our next topic that we'll be seeing next Wednesday, where we will be talking about how to fabricate soul and spirit. And we are going to know there what the soul and the spirit are, since they are concepts that are commonly confused with each other. And we are going to see how they are formed in what state they are currently, and what are the steps to develop our soul and our spirit. And well, thank you very much to all of you, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.